Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the alien ship approach Earth's orbital station. The massive vessel looked like a giant insect made of metal and crystal, its surface covered in strange patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Jake had seen many alien ships in his 20 years of service, but the Zephyrian diplomatic vessels always made him feel uncomfortable. "Captain, incoming message from Earth Command," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Bell. "Admiral Walsh wants all fleet commanders to monitor the Federation broadcast." Jake nodded and activated the main screen. The image showed Ambassador Rick Coleman standing in the Grand Hall of Earth's orbital diplomatic station. Behind him stood a creature that looked like a praying mantis crossed with a spider, its 4 arms moving in complex gestures as it spoke. The translator box on the wall converted the alien's clicking sounds into human words. "Citizens of Earth and all human settlements," the creature said through the machine. "I am Clix-9, representative of the Council of Primarchs. I bring an important message from the Galactic Federation." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Important messages from the Federation usually meant bad news for humanity. He had learned this during his long career defending human space from pirates and hostile aliens. The Federation always had demands, never gifts. "The Council has decided that humanity must contribute to the great expansion into the Andromeda Spiral," Clix-9 continued. "This is a glorious opportunity for your species to serve the greater good of galactic civilization." Ambassador Coleman's face remained neutral, but Jake could see the tension in the man's shoulders. Coleman had been dealing with alien politics for 15 years and had become skilled at hiding his emotions. Jake wished he could do the same. "Your contribution will be 60% of your total population," the alien announced. "These individuals will serve as manual laborers in the Outer Rim colonies, helping to build the infrastructure necessary for our expansion. This is not a request but a requirement of Federation membership." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. 60% of humanity. That meant billions of people torn from their homes and families, sent to work as slaves in alien colonies light years away. He looked around his bridge and saw the same shock and anger on every human face. "You have 30 standard days to comply," Clix-9 said. "Failure to meet this requirement will result in immediate expulsion from the Federation, along with loss of all technological privileges and protection from hostile species." The broadcast ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Jake stared at the blank screen, his mind struggling to process what he had just heard. The Federation wanted to take more than half of all humans and use them as slave labor. The alternative was being cast out into space without the advanced technology that had helped humanity survive among the stars. "Sir," said Commander Alex Rivera, Jake's second in command, "are they serious about this?" Jake looked at his old friend. Alex had served with him for 10 years, through pirate attacks and border disputes. They had always found ways to protect human interests while staying within Federation rules. But this was different. This was not about protecting shipping lanes or settling territorial disputes. This was about the survival of human civilization. "I think they are completely serious," Jake said quietly. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out on every world and station. On Mars, General Tony Brennan watched the broadcast from his command center deep beneath the red planet's surface. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair until his knuckles turned white. Tony had spent his entire adult life defending human colonies from alien threats. Now the biggest threat came from humanity's supposed allies. In the research labs of Luna Station, Dr. Lisa Chen paused her work on xenobiology and stared at her computer screen. She had dedicated her career to understanding alien species and helping humanity find its place in galactic civilization. She had always believed that cooperation and understanding could solve any problem. But 60% of humanity as slave labor was not cooperation. It was exploitation on a scale that made her feel sick. On the outer colonies, where humans had built new lives on distant worlds, the reaction was even stronger. Captain Sue Taylor commanded the defense forces for the Tau Ceti colonies, where 50,000 humans had created thriving communities. Her colonists had worked for generations to terraform harsh worlds and build something beautiful. Now they were told that most of them would be taken away to serve alien masters. Back on Earth, Admiral Karen Walsh sat in the emergency session of the Unified Command. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity's military, scientific, and political institutions. Everyone looked stunned by what they had just witnessed. The room that usually buzzed with conversation and debate was silent. "Options," Admiral Walsh said finally. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the strain in her eyes through the video link from his ship. "We could try to negotiate," suggested Ambassador Coleman, who had returned from the diplomatic station. "Maybe we can reduce the number or extend the timeline." "Negotiate what?" said General Brennan from Mars. "They want 60% of our people as slaves." "What exactly do we negotiate? 55%? 40%? Any percentage is too much." Dr. Chen spoke up from her lab on Luna. "I have been studying Federation history for 20 years. This is not the first time they have made such demands. 47 other species have faced similar requirements over the past 1,000 years. "And what happened to those species?" Admiral Walsh asked. "They all complied," Dr. Chen said quietly, "but their populations continued to decline with each subsequent demand. The Federation operates by gradually consuming younger species to support the expansion and comfort of the older ones." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had always known that humanity was among the youngest species in the Federation, but he had not realized what that really meant. They were not junior partners working toward equality. They were resources to be consumed by their supposed allies. "So our choices are slavery or isolation," Admiral Walsh said. "There might be a third choice," Jake said, surprising himself by speaking up. All eyes turned to his image on the conference screen. He had not planned to say anything, but the words came out anyway. "We could say no." "No to what?" Admiral Walsh asked. "No to all of it," Jake said. "No to the demands. No to the Federation. No to being treated like resources instead of people." The room fell silent again. Jake could see the shock on every face. Leaving the Federation was almost unthinkable. Humanity had been part of galactic civilization for 200 years. All of their advanced technology, their faster-than-light travel, their medical advances, everything that made life possible on distant worlds came from Federation science. But as Jake looked at the faces of his fellow officers and leaders, he saw something else besides shock. He saw hope. For the first time since the broadcast, someone had suggested that humanity had a choice besides submission or isolation. They could fight. The meeting continued for hours, but Jake knew that something fundamental had changed. Humanity faced the greatest crisis in its history, and for the first time they were considering the possibility of standing up to the galaxy and saying no. The emergency sessions continued for 3 days across all human settlements. In the Great Council chamber on Earth, representatives from every colony and station argued about humanity's response to the Federation's demand. Some wanted to comply and save what they could. Others wanted to negotiate for better terms. But more and more voices called for complete defiance. Dr. Lisa Chen had not slept in 48 hours. She sat in her lab surrounded by historical records and xenological data, searching for any precedent that might help humanity find a different path. Her research had revealed disturbing patterns in how the Federation treated younger species, and she knew her findings would change everything. "Computer, display the population data for species 47A through 63B, she said to her research terminal. The holographic display showed a series of graphs that made her stomach turn. Every species that had complied with Federation labor demands had seen their numbers decline steadily over the following centuries. The pattern was always the same. First came the initial demand, then gradually increasing requirements until the species was reduced to a fraction of its original population. Lisa pulled up the records of the Deltarian mining guilds, who had been Federation members for 300 years. Their population had dropped from 12 billion to less than 2 billion, as they were gradually relocated to work in dangerous mining operations throughout the galaxy. The aquatic thalassans had suffered even worse, with their numbers falling from 30 billion to just 8 billion, as their ocean worlds were strip mined for rare minerals. "They are not asking for temporary labor," Lisa said to herself. "They are asking for the slow extinction of our species." Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison had called a meeting of all human fleet commanders. The holographic conference room aboard the UES Liberty was crowded with the images of captains from across human space. Some looked angry, others worried, but all of them wanted answers. "The way I see it," Jake said, "we have 3 choices. We can give them what they want and watch our people disappear into alien slave camps. We can try to negotiate and maybe delay our extinction by a few decades. Or we can tell the Federation to go to hell and take our chances on our own. Captain Sue Taylor spoke up from the Tau Ceti colonies. Jake, I understand the anger, but let's be realistic. Without Federation technology, how do we maintain our faster-than-light communications? How do we power our fusion reactors? How do we treat diseases that require alien medicine? We figure it out, Jake replied. Humanity survived for thousands of years before we met the aliens. We built cities, explored our solar system, and developed incredible technology without any help. We can do it again. Commander Alex Rivera, sitting beside Jake on the Liberty's bridge, leaned forward. The Federation controls all the trade routes and star maps. If we leave, we will be isolated from the rest of galactic civilization. No trade, no technology exchange, no protection from hostile species. What protection? Asked General Tony Brennan from Mars. They want to take 60% of our people. How is that protection? While the military leaders debated, Ambassador Rick Coleman was making one last desperate attempt at diplomacy. He had requested an emergency meeting with the Council of Primarchs, hoping to find some alternative to the catastrophic demand. The meeting took place in the ethereal chamber of Primarch Station, where the most ancient species in the galaxy made their decisions. Rick stood in the center of a vast circular room where floating crystals provided the only light. Around him, barely visible in the shadows, sat the representatives of species so old that their names were legends. The Ascendant Prime Othkalar appeared as a shifting cloud of energy that barely maintained a humanoid shape. Shard Collective 7 looked like a living cathedral made of crystal and light. Your species seeks to avoid its obligations, Othkalar said, its voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. This is not acceptable. With respect, Rick said, choosing his words carefully. We seek to understand why this obligation is necessary. Humanity has served the Federation faithfully for 2 centuries. We have contributed to exploration efforts, shared our technological innovations, and fought alongside Federation forces against common enemies. Your contributions have been noted, said Shard Collective 7, its crystalline form resonating with harmonic tones. However, the expansion into Andromeda requires resources that only younger species can provide. Your people are strong, adaptable, and numerous. They are ideal for the construction work required. Rick felt his diplomatic training struggling against his human emotions. You are asking us to sacrifice billions of lives for construction work. Surely there must be alternatives. Automated systems, robotic labor, volunteer programs. The decision has been made, Othkalar said with finality. Your species will comply or face expulsion from civilized space. These are the only options. Rick returned to Earth with the knowledge that negotiation was impossible. The Federation's demand was not based on necessity or military requirements. It was based on the simple fact that they could make the demand and expect compliance. Humanity was not a junior partner working toward equality. They were subjects expected to obey without question. The news of Rick's failed diplomatic mission reached every human settlement within hours. On the mining colonies of the asteroid belt, workers stopped their operations to discuss what it meant. In the research stations orbiting Jupiter, scientists abandoned their experiments to debate humanity's future. On the terraforming projects of distant worlds, colonists gathered in meeting halls to make the most important decision in human history. Dr. Lisa Chen presented her research findings to the emergency session of the Unified Command. The holographic displays showed the fate of every species that had complied with similar Federation demands. The graphs and statistics painted a clear picture of gradual extinction disguised as cooperation. The Federation does not see us as partners, Lisa explained to the assembled leaders. They see us as a resource to be consumed. If we comply with this demand, it will not be the last. There will be more demands, each one larger than the previous, until humanity exists only to serve the needs of older species. Admiral Karen Walsh studied the data with growing horror. She had spent 30 years in the military believing that the Federation represented the best hope for humanity's future among the stars. Now she saw that it represented the path to humanity's slow extinction. What about the species that refused, she asked. None have refused, Lisa said quietly. We would be the first. The vote was held across all human settlements simultaneously. Every adult human, from Earth to the most distant colony, had the right to participate in deciding humanity's response to the Federation's ultimatum. The debate raged in town halls, aboard space stations, and in the meeting rooms of starships. Those who supported compliance argued that humanity could not survive alone in a hostile galaxy. They pointed to the benefits of Federation membership: advanced medical technology that had extended human lifespan, faster-than-light travel that made interstellar civilization possible, and protection from aggressive species that viewed humans as easy prey. Those who supported defiance argued that survival as slaves was not survival at all. They reminded their fellow humans of the qualities that had carried their species from the caves of Earth to the stars: creativity, determination, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. They argued that humans had always been at their best when facing impossible odds. Captain Jake Morrison cast his vote aboard the UES Liberty, surrounded by his crew. Commander Alex Rivera voted beside him, followed by every officer and enlisted person on the ship. Across human space, similar scenes played out on thousands of ships and stations. General Tony Brennan voted in his command center on Mars, then watched as his soldiers and technicians made their own choices. Dr. Lisa Chen voted in her laboratory, then waited as her research assistants and colleagues followed suit. Ambassador Rick Coleman voted in his office on Earth, knowing that his diplomatic career was about to end regardless of the outcome. The results came in slowly as votes were tallied from across human space. Earth voted overwhelmingly for defiance. Mars followed suit. The asteroid mining colonies voted to resist. The Jupiter research stations chose defiance. The outer colonies, who had worked so hard to build new lives on distant worlds, refused to surrender their people to alien masters. When the final count was announced, the result was clear. 73% of humanity had voted to reject the Federation's demand and withdraw from galactic civilization. They chose uncertainty over slavery, isolation over extinction, and hope over surrender. Admiral Walsh stood before the cameras to announce humanity's decision to the galaxy. Her words were broadcast on every human world and transmitted to the Federation's diplomatic channels. The message was simple and direct. Earth and all human settlements hereby reject the Council's demand and withdraw from the Galactic Federation, effective immediately, she said. We will not sacrifice our people to serve as slave labor for alien expansion. We choose freedom. The die was cast. Humanity had said no to the galaxy, and there could be no going back. The Federation's response came within 6 hours of humanity's announcement. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the UES Liberty as massive alien warships began emerging from hyperspace around Earth's orbital perimeter. The first wave consisted of 50 vessels from the Corvan Empire, their black hulls bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Behind them came the sleek silver ships of the Etherian Collective, followed by the organic-looking vessels of a dozen other species. Captain, we're detecting over 3,000 ships, reported Lieutenant Sarah Bell from her communications station. They're forming a complete blockade around Earth, Mars, and the major colony worlds. Jake felt his heart sink as more ships continued to appear. The human fleet consisted of fewer than 200 combat vessels, most of them designed for patrol, duties, and pirate suppression rather than full-scale warfare. Against 3,000 of the galaxy's most advanced warships, they stood no chance in a direct confrontation. Sir, incoming transmission from the Federation fleet, Sarah announced. The main screen activated to show a creature that Jake recognized. From intelligence briefings as Admiral Thexcor of the Corvan Empire, the alien looked like a cross between a shark and a wolf, with gray skin covered in scars and eyes that glowed with predatory intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was a low growl that the translator rendered into harsh human words. Human vessels, you are in violation of galactic law, Thexcor announced. Your species has rejected the legitimate authority of the Galactic Federation and must face the consequences. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. The penalty for your defiance has been increased to 80% of your population. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Lieutenant Sarah Bell, who had served with him for 5 years. Commander Alex Rivera, his oldest friend in the fleet. Engineering Chief Bob Turner, who could make their aging ship perform miracles with spare parts and determination. All of them looked scared, but none of them looked ready to surrender. Send a reply, Jake said quietly. Tell Admiral Thexcor that humanity respectfully declines his offer. On Mars, General Tony Brennan was coordinating the defense of the Red Planet from his command center deep beneath the surface. The Martian defense grid had been designed to protect against pirate raids and hostile aliens, not a full-scale invasion by the galaxy's most powerful military forces. But Tony had spent 40 years in the military, and he knew that sometimes you had to work with what you had. "Status report," Tony called to his staff officers. Major Linda Hayes looked up from her tactical display. "Sir, we have 47 defense platforms operational around Mars, plus the orbital fortress at Phobos. The Federation fleet has deployed 200 ships to blockade us. What about the civilian population?" "Evacuation is proceeding according to plan. We've moved most non-essential personnel to the deep shelters. The mining tunnels can protect about half our population from orbital bombardment." Tony nodded grimly. Mars had been his home for 20 years, and he had helped design many of the underground facilities that now sheltered millions of civilians. The planet's harsh environment had forced the colonists to build robust defensive structures, but they had never expected to need them against the Federation. In the outer colonies, Captain Sue Taylor was dealing with her own crisis. The Tau Ceti system contained 6 human settlements with a combined population of 200,000 people. The Federation blockade included 50 ships, more than enough to prevent any escape attempts. Sue's defense force consisted of 12 patrol boats and a handful of converted civilian vessels. "Captain, we're receiving surrender demands from the Federation fleet," reported her communications officer. "They want us to prepare our population for immediate transport to the labor camps." Sue looked out at the stars where she had spent most of her adult life. The Tau Ceti colonies represented humanity at its best. Pioneers who had traveled light years from Earth to build something new and beautiful on alien worlds. She had watched children grow up in the low gravity of New Austin, seen families build homes in the crystal caves of Liberty Station, and helped establish the first human settlements in this distant system. "Tell them we need time to prepare," Sue said. "Stall for as long as possible." What the Federation did not expect was the creativity and determination that had carried humanity to the stars in the first place. Dr. Pete Harrison, Chief of Weapons Development on Luna Station, had been working around the clock since humanity's Declaration of Independence. His team of engineers and scientists had been tasked with finding ways to level the playing field against vastly superior alien technology. "The problem is not just their numbers," Pete explained to his staff. "Their individual ships are more advanced than ours, with better weapons, stronger shields, and faster engines. But they have weaknesses we can exploit." His team had been studying Federation technology for decades, looking for ways to improve human systems. Now they were looking for ways to destroy those same systems. They had discovered that the aliens' advanced technology came with limitations, standardized designs that were predictable, rigid tactical doctrines that had not changed in centuries, and an overconfidence born from millennia of unchallenged supremacy. "We cannot match their firepower," Pete continued, "but we can be smarter, faster, and more unpredictable." The first test of human ingenuity came when the Federation attempted to land troops on the lunar surface. A squadron of Corvin assault ships approached Luna Station, expecting minimal resistance from the lightly defended research facility. Instead, they encountered something no alien military had ever faced: human creativity applied to warfare. Dr. Harrison's team had converted the station's mass drivers, normally used to launch cargo containers into space, into kinetic weapons, capable of accelerating projectiles to incredible velocities. When the Corvin ships came within range, Luna Station opened fire with chunks of lunar rock accelerated to nearly 10% of light speed. The results were devastating. 3 Corvin ships were destroyed immediately, their advanced shields useless against projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The surviving ships retreated in confusion, unable to understand how a research station had inflicted such damage on military vessels. Captain Jake Morrison saw his opportunity and seized it. The UES Liberty, along with 6 other human warships, attacked the confused Federation forces around Luna. The human ships were older and less powerful, but they fought with a desperation and unpredictability that the aliens had never encountered. Commander Alex Rivera, coordinated the attack from his position at the tactical station. Target their command ship. All weapons, maximum power. The Liberty's plasma cannons and missile launchers focused their fire on the Federation flagship, a massive Etherian vessel that served as the command center for the lunar assault force. The alien ship's shields absorbed most of the damage, but the concentrated fire from 7 human ships was enough to overload its defensive systems. Their shields are down, Alex reported. All ships concentrate fire. The Federation flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking its crew of 300 aliens with it. The surviving Federation ships, deprived of their command, structure and still confused by the mass driver attack, retreated to regroup with the main fleet. It was humanity's first victory against impossible odds, and news of the battle spread quickly through human space. On Mars, General Tony Brennan smiled as he received the report. In the outer colonies, Captain Sue Taylor felt a spark of hope. Throughout the human settlements, people began to believe that resistance might actually be possible, but the Federation was far from defeated. Admiral Thek's corps regrouped his forces and began planning a more systematic approach to crushing human resistance. He had underestimated the humans once and paid the price. He would not make that mistake again. The siege of human space had begun in earnest. Federation ships blockaded every major human world, cutting off trade and communication between the settlements. Their advanced sensors watched for any sign of human movement, ready to destroy any ship that tried to run the blockade. The message was clear. Humanity could choose between surrender and slow starvation. Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the alien ships patrolling around Earth. The beautiful blue planet that had given birth to his species was now surrounded by enemies who wanted to enslave its people. The odds against humanity seemed impossible, but Jake had never been the type to accept impossible odds. "Sarah, open a channel to all human ships and stations," he said. "Channel open, sir." Jake looked directly into the camera, knowing that his words would reach every human settlement in the galaxy. "This is Captain Morrison of the UES Liberty. The Federation thinks they can starve us into submission. They think we will surrender rather than fight for our freedom. They are about to learn something that every human child knows. We do not give up. We do not surrender. And we do not accept defeat. Let's show these aliens what humanity can do." The war for human independence had begun, and neither side was prepared for what would come next. 3 months into the siege, something unexpected began happening across the galaxy. Reports reached the Federation command that other species were showing signs of unrest. The Deltarian mining guilds, who had served the Federation for 3 centuries, started experiencing equipment failures and production delays. The aquatic thalassans began reporting mysterious problems with their deep-sea mineral extraction operations. Even some of the supposedly loyal species began questioning orders from their Federation overseers. Dr. Lisa Chen had been working secretly, with her xenological contacts throughout the galaxy, using her knowledge of alien cultures to establish communication networks that the Federation could not monitor. Her laboratory on Luna Station had become the center of a growing intelligence operation that stretched across dozens of star systems. "Captain Morrison, you need to see this," Lisa said during a secure communication with the UES Liberty. Her face appeared on Jake's screen, showing excitement despite the exhaustion from months of constant work. "What have you found, Doctor?" "I have been in contact with resistance movements on 17 different worlds. The Deltarians are sabotaging mining equipment. The Thalassans are providing us with Federation fleet movements. Even some Corvin military officers are beginning to question their orders." Jake felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. "Are you saying we have allies?" "More than allies," Lisa replied. "We have started a revolution. News of humanity's defiance has spread throughout the galaxy, and other species are remembering what freedom feels like." The key breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. Zethmaran, a young Etherian scientist, had contacted Lisa through encrypted channels. The Etherians were one of the Federation's founding species, considered completely loyal by the Council of Primarchs. But Zethmaran represented a new generation of Etherians who had grown uncomfortable with their government's treatment of younger species. "Your species has done something remarkable," Zethmaran had told Lisa during their first secret communication. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone has said no to the Council. This has inspired others to question the system we have all accepted without thought. Through Zeth Moran, Lisa learned about the true structure of Federation society. The oldest species, like the Ascendant and the Shard Collective, had created a system where newer species gradually became resources for their expansion and comfort. Each generation of species served the one before it, creating a pyramid of exploitation that stretched across the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison had been using this intelligence to plan increasingly bold strikes against Federation supply lines. His fleet of human ships, now reinforced by alien volunteers, had learned to fight a guerrilla war that took advantage of their enemies' rigid thinking and overconfidence. "Target the supply convoy heading for the Vega sector," Jake told Commander Alex Rivera during their latest planning session. "Intelligence says it is carrying weapons and equipment for the siege forces." "Sir, that convoy is protected by 20 Corvin warships. We only have 8 ships available for this mission, which is why they will not expect us to attack it," Jake replied with a grin that had become famous throughout human space. The attack on the Vega supply convoy demonstrated how much human tactics had evolved during the siege. Instead of a direct assault, Jake's ships used a combination of stealth technology developed by Dr. Pete Harrison and intelligence provided by alien sympathizers. They struck the convoy at precisely the moment when its escort ships were changing formation, destroying 6 supply vessels and escaping before the Corvin warships could respond. General Tony Brennan had turned Mars into a fortress that defied every attempt at conquest. The Federation had tried orbital bombardment, ground assault, and siege warfare, but the Red Planet's defenders continued to hold out. Tony's greatest innovation had been the integration of alien refugees into his defense forces. "General, we have 47 Deltarian volunteers requesting permission to join the defense grid," reported Major Linda Hayes. "What are their qualifications?" "They are mining engineers, sir. They know more about underground construction and demolitions than any human." Tony nodded approvingly. The Deltarians had been enslaved by the Federation for centuries, forced to work in dangerous mining operations throughout the galaxy. Their knowledge of explosives and tunnel warfare had proved invaluable in defending Mars against alien invasion. The Thalassan refugees brought different skills. Their aquatic nature made them useless for surface combat, but they were masters of fluid dynamics and three-dimensional thinking. Tony put them in charge of coordinating the movement of supplies through Mars' underground tunnel network, where their ability to think in 3 dimensions gave them advantages that humans could not match. Captain Sue Taylor had achieved something even more remarkable in the outer colonies. Her defense force had not only survived the Federation siege, but had actually begun liberating other worlds. The success came from an unlikely alliance between human colonists and Corvin military units that had defected from the Federation. The defections had started when Admiral Thek's Corps ordered his ships to begin bombarding civilian targets on human worlds. Many Corvin officers, raised in a military culture that valued honor above all else, could not accept orders to kill non-combatants. The first defection had been Commander Vex Cole, who brought his ship and crew over to the human side rather than participate in what he called the murder of innocents. "Captain Taylor, we have received intelligence from Commander Vex Cole," reported her tactical officer. "There is a Federation prison ship holding captured humans from the Centauri colonies." Sue studied the tactical display showing the location of the prison ship. It was heavily guarded and located deep in Federation territory, but she had learned never to accept impossible odds. "Prepare a rescue mission. We are going to bring our people home." The rescue of the Centauri prisoners became a symbol of the growing alliance between humans and their alien supporters. Sue's mixed fleet of human patrol boats and defected Corvin warships struck deep into Federation territory, overwhelming the prison ship's guards and freeing 8,000 human civilians who had been destined for slave labor camps. Ambassador Rick Coleman, working from a hidden base in the asteroid belt, had become the coordinator of the growing rebellion. His diplomatic skills proved invaluable in negotiating between species that had been enemies for centuries, finding common ground between humans and aliens who shared a desire for freedom from Federation oppression. "We are receiving messages of support from 63 different species," Rick reported during a conference call with human military leaders. "Some are providing intelligence, others are engaging in sabotage, and a few are openly joining our military operations. Dr. Lisa Chen had been analyzing the pattern of alien support and had made a startling discovery. The Federation's system of exploitation has created its own enemies. Every species that has been forced to serve the older races has potential rebels waiting for the right moment to act. The moment came when the Federation made a fatal mistake. Faced with growing unrest throughout the galaxy, the Council of Primarchs decided to make an example of humanity by authorizing the use of planet-killer weapons. The announcement that Earth would be destroyed unless humanity surrendered immediately was broadcast throughout Federation space. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had remained neutral in the conflict were horrified by the prospect of genocide. Even some of the older Federation species began questioning the wisdom of their leaders. The threat to destroy Earth united the galaxy's oppressed peoples in a way that nothing else could have achieved. Commander Zethmiran contacted Dr. Lisa Chen with urgent intelligence. Lisa, you must warn your people. The Council has authorized the construction of stellar disruption devices. They plan to destroy your star system if you do not surrender within 10 days. Lisa felt her blood run cold. A stellar disruption device could cause a star to go supernova, destroying everything within dozens of light years. Not only would it kill every human in the solar system, but it would also destroy the alien refugees who had joined their cause. How long until the weapons are deployed? Lisa asked. 5 days. But Lisa, there is something else. The announcement has caused massive protests throughout Federation space. Many species are declaring that genocide crosses a line they cannot accept. Jake Morrison received the intelligence report while his fleet was raiding Federation supply lines near the Alpha Centauri system. The news that Earth faced destruction hit him like a physical blow, but it also filled him with a grim determination. Humanity had said no to slavery, and now they would have to say no to extinction. Alex, send word to all human ships and allied vessels, Jake said to his second-in-command. We are going to make the Federation regret ever threatening our home. The galaxy was about to witness something that had not happened in 1,000 years. A coordinated rebellion by dozens of species acting together against their oppressors. Humanity had lit a fire that was spreading throughout the stars, and neither the Federation nor the rebels themselves knew where it would lead. The galaxy erupted into open rebellion. Within hours of the Federation's threat to destroy Earth, 18 species declared independence from the Council of Primarchs. The Deltarian mining guilds sealed their facilities and announced they would no longer provide raw materials to Federation worlds. The Thalassans emerged from their ocean depths to destroy the extraction platforms that had strip-mined their worlds for centuries. Even some Corvan military units abandoned their posts and joined the growing alliance. Admiral Karen Walsh found herself commanding the largest military coalition in galactic history. From her command center on Luna Station, she coordinated the movements of ships from dozens of different species, each contributing their unique abilities to the fight for freedom. The human talent for organization and logistics proved invaluable in managing such a diverse force. Status report on Operation Liberation, Karen called to her staff. Commander Beth Young, who had taken over intelligence coordination, looked up from her displays. Ma'am, we have confirmed rebellions on 47 worlds. The Federation is losing control of entire sectors. What about the stellar disruption device? Captain Morrison's task force is moving to intercept the weapon convoy. They have support from defected Corvan ships and Etherian. Volunteers led by Commander Zethmiran, Captain. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES. Liberty as his combined fleet approached the Federation convoy carrying the stellar disruption device. His force included 23 human ships, 15 defected Corvan vessels, 8 Etherian cruisers, and a collection of smaller ships from 6 other species. It was the most diverse fleet in galactic history, united by a shared determination to stop genocide. Captain, the convoy is heavily defended, reported Lieutenant Sarah Bell. We are detecting 60 Federation warships, including 3 of their newest Dreadnought-class vessels. Jake looked at the tactical display and felt a familiar calm settle over him. Throughout his career, he had faced impossible odds and found ways to win through creativity and determination. Today would be no different, except that the fate of his entire species depended on the outcome. All ships, this is Captain Morrison, he announced over the fleet communication system. Today we fight not just for humanity, but for the future of freedom in the galaxy. The Federation thinks they can use terror and genocide to maintain their power. We are going to prove them wrong. The battle began with a coordinated strike by the Etherian ships, whose advanced technology allowed them to disable the convoy's long-range communications. Without the ability to call for reinforcements, the Federation forces found themselves isolated and outnumbered. The defected Corvan warships, led by the reformed Admiral Thek's Corps, who had joined the rebellion after learning of the genocide order, attacked their former comrades with the fury of betrayed soldiers. Dr. Pete Harrison's technological innovations proved decisive in the battle. His team had developed new weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology, freely shared by their allies. Mass drivers fired projectiles that could penetrate the strongest shields, while fusion mines created gravity wells that trapped enemy ships in killing zones. The stellar disruption device was destroyed when Captain Sue Taylor led a boarding party onto the convoy's command ship. Her mixed force of human marines and Deltarian demolition experts fought through the vessel's corridors, overcoming alien defenders who had never faced such a diverse and determined enemy. When they reached the weapon control center, Sue personally detonated the charges that rendered the genocide device forever useless. With the immediate threat to Earth neutralized, the rebellion turned its attention to the Federation's core systems. Dr. Lisa Chen had been working with alien scientists from dozens of species to locate the hidden stronghold, where the Council of Primarchs made their decisions. The breakthrough came when Zeth Miran provided access to ancient Etherian star charts that revealed the location of Primarch Station. It exists in a pocket dimension, Lisa explained to the War Council. The station can only be reached through a network of space-time gates controlled by the Council. If we can capture those gates, we can force a final confrontation. General Tony Brennan had been studying the tactical challenges of assaulting a fortress in a pocket dimension. His experience defending Mars had taught him that even the most advanced technology could be overcome by determined attackers who thought outside conventional parameters. The key is simultaneous strikes, Tony explained to his fellow commanders. The Council expects us to approach through 1 or 2 gates. Instead, we hit all 6 gates at the same time, overwhelming their ability to coordinate a defense. The final assault on Primarch Station was planned as carefully as a symphony. Admiral Karen Walsh coordinated the timing to ensure that all 6 task forces reached their targets simultaneously. Each force included a mix of species and ship types, taking advantage of the unique strengths that each race brought to the Alliance. Ambassador Rick Coleman led the diplomatic portion of the operation, carrying with him the Charter of Galactic Liberation that had been drafted by representatives from 83 species. The document established principles of self-determination and mutual cooperation that would replace the Federation's system of exploitation. We are not here to destroy the Federation, Rick explained to his team as they prepared for the final negotiations. We are here to transform it into something that serves all species equally. The assault began at exactly 600 Galactic Standard Time. Jake Morrison led the attack through Gate Alpha, his ships emerging into the pocket dimension to find themselves facing ancient defensive systems that had protected the Council for millennia. The other task forces encountered similar defenses at their assigned gates, but the coordinated nature of the attack prevented the Council from concentrating their forces at any single point. The battle for Primarch Station was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ancient weapons that could manipulate space and time clashed with innovative tactics developed by species that had learned to work together despite centuries of enforced separation. Human creativity combined with Deltarian engineering, Thalassian fluid dynamics merged with Corvan military precision, and Etherian technology enhanced by innovations from a dozen other races. The Council of Primarchs made one final desperate attempt to preserve their power. They activated the station's dimensional collapse system, planning to destroy the pocket dimension and everything in it, rather than accept defeat. The explosion would have killed millions of beings from both sides of the conflict, but Dr. Pete Harrison had anticipated this possibility. Working with alien scientists who had shared their knowledge freely, Pete had developed a dimensional stabilization field that could prevent the collapse. The device required precise coordination between ships from multiple species, each contributing a different type of energy at exactly the right moment. It was the ultimate demonstration of what could be achieved when diverse peoples worked together, instead of competing for dominance. The stabilization field held, the dimensional collapse was averted, and the Council of Primarchs found themselves facing the representatives of a free galaxy. The Ascendant Prime Othkalar and Shard Collective 7, being so ancient that they remembered the formation of the Federation itself, were forced to acknowledge that their age of unchallenged dominance had ended. Ambassador Rick Coleman stood before the Council in the same chamber where humanity had once been ordered to surrender its people to slavery. Now he carried the voice of billions of beings who had chosen freedom over security, cooperation over domination. The Galactic Federation as it existed is dead, Rick announced. In its place, we offer the Galactic Alliance, based on the principle that all species have the right to determine their own destiny. You can join us as equals, or you can be left behind as relics of a forgotten age. The transformation of galactic civilization did not happen overnight. There were negotiations and compromises, setbacks and celebrations. Some species chose to remain isolated rather than join the new alliance, while others embraced the opportunity to finally participate as equals in galactic society. Captain Jake Morrison found himself promoted to Admiral of the Alliance fleet, tasked with maintaining peace in a galaxy that was learning to live without the rigid hierarchy that had defined it for millennia. His flagship, the UES Liberty, became a symbol of the rebellion that had changed everything. Dr. Lisa Chen established the Interspecies Cooperation Institute, where scientists from hundreds of worlds worked together to solve problems that no single species could handle alone. The free exchange of knowledge and ideas led to technological advances that surpassed anything achieved under the Federation's restrictive system. General Tony Brennan became the architect of the Alliance's defensive strategy, designing systems that protected member worlds without creating the oppressive military structure that had supported the old Federation. His innovations emphasized cooperation and mutual aid rather than domination and control. The ceremony establishing the Galactic Alliance took place on Earth, in the same orbital station where humanity had first received the Federation's ultimatum. Representatives from 217 species gathered to sign the Charter of Galactic Liberation,